The stars looked different from this distance. Lisa Martinez pressed her face against the cold metal of the observation window and watched the blue giant star grow larger as their ship moved closer to the Kepler 442 system she had dreamed of. This moment for 20 years, ever since she was a little girl looking up at the night sky from her backyard in Texas. Now she was the commander of humanity's first faster-than-light exploration mission, and the weight of that responsibility sat heavy on her shoulders. Behind her, the bridge of the UES Discovery hummed with quiet activity. Jake Thompson sat at the pilot station, his hands moving over the controls with practiced ease. He was a good pilot, maybe the best Earth had ever produced, and Lisa trusted him completely. Carol Adams bent over her engineering console, monitoring the new faster-than-light drive that had made this journey possible. The drive was still experimental, and Carol watched every reading like a mother watching a sick child. Ryan Davis sat at communications, listening for any signals that might tell them they were not alone in this part of the galaxy. The Discovery was not a large ship. It carried only 30 people, and most of them were scientists and engineers. They had enough supplies for 2 years, but Lisa hoped they would not need to stay away from Earth that long. The ship was built for exploration, not fighting, though it did carry some basic weapons. Lisa hoped they would never need to use them. "Commander," Jake called from his station, "we're approaching the fourth planet. The one the telescope said might have water." His voice was calm, but Lisa could hear the excitement underneath. They were about to be the first humans to see an alien world up close. Lisa moved to her command chair and sat down. The fourth planet of the Kepler 442 system filled the main screen. It was beautiful with blue oceans and white clouds, but something was wrong. There were lights on the dark side of the planet, arranged in patterns too regular to be natural. Cities. Someone lived here. "Ryan," Lisa said, "are you picking up any signals?" Ryan's fingers danced over his controls. "Yes, Commander." "Multiple sources?" "The signals are complex, definitely artificial, and ... He paused, his face growing pale. "Commander, there's something else." "I'm reading multiple large objects moving toward us, fast." The main screen shifted to show space around them. At first, Lisa saw nothing but stars. Then Jake enhanced the image, and she gasped. Ships, alien ships, and they were huge. The largest was easily 10 times the size of the Discovery. Their design was unlike anything human engineers had ever imagined, all sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to absorb light. "Red alert," Lisa said quietly. "All hands to stations." The bridge lights dimmed to red, and throughout the ship, people hurried to their emergency positions. Lisa's heart pounded, but she kept her voice steady. "Jake, can we outrun them?" Jake checked his instruments. "No, Commander. They're much faster than us, and there are too many of them. At least 20. Ships." The alien fleet surrounded the Discovery in a matter of minutes. Up close, the ships looked even more frightening. Their hulls were covered with weapons, and Lisa could see strange lights moving behind dark windows. Whatever lived inside those ships, they were clearly more advanced than humans. "Incoming transmission," Ryan reported. It's in English, Commander." Lisa straightened in her chair. "Put it through." The main screen filled with the image of something that made Lisa's blood run cold. The creature was enormous, easily 8 feet tall, with 4 powerful arms ending in clawed hands. Its skin looked like dark armor, and its eyes glowed with a cold yellow light. When it spoke, its voice was deep and filled with what sounded like amusement. "Small creatures from the third planet," the alien said. "I am War Commander Thexver of the Zephyrian Empire. You have entered our territory without permission. This is not allowed." Lisa stood up, trying to look more confident than she felt. "I am Commander Lisa Martinez of the Earthship Discovery. We come in peace. We didn't know this system belonged to anyone," Thexver laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Peace? You speak of peace? Look at you, small creature. You are tiny and weak. Your ship is nothing compared to ours. Yet you dare to enter Zephyrian space and speak to me as an equal?" Other aliens appeared on the screen behind Thexver. Some looked like Dexver, while others were completely different. One seemed to be made of living crystal, another appeared to be a cloud of gas held in a mechanical suit. All of them were staring at the humans with expressions that Lisa could only describe as hungry. "The Zephyrian Empire rules this sector of space," Dexver continued. "6 species serve under our banner, all of them strong, all of them worthy. You humans ... you are not strong. Look at you. So small, so fragile, I could crush you with one hand." Carol stepped closer to Lisa. "Commander," she whispered, "our sensors show that these aliens are incredibly strong. Their bone density is 3 times ours, and their muscle mass ... She swallowed hard. "They could literally tear us apart." Lisa nodded but kept her eyes on the screen. Dexver was still talking. "However," the alien war commander said, "the Zephyrian Empire follows ancient traditions. When a new species enters our territory, they must prove their worth through combat. If they succeed, they may trade with us. If they fail ... his grin showed teeth like knives. They become slaves." The bridge went silent. Lisa felt her cruise. Eyes on her, everyone knew what this meant. These aliens were giving them a choice: fight or become property. "What kind of combat?" Lisa asked. "Simple," Dexver replied. "One of your people fights one of ours. Hand to hand, no weapons. If your champion wins, you go free. If our champion wins, your entire species serves the Zephyrian Empire." Lisa looked around the bridge. Jake was a good pilot, but not a fighter. Carol was brilliant with machines, but had never been in a real fight. Ryan was young and smart, but physically weak. None of her crew were warriors. "I need time to consider your offer," Lisa said. Dexver's laugh echoed through the bridge. "There is nothing to consider, small creature. You will fight, or we will simply take your ship and make you slaves anyway. At least this way, you have a chance, however small." Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, thinking. She had trained in martial arts since she was a child. Her father had been a Marine, and he had taught her that sometimes fighting was the only option. She was not the strongest person on the ship, but she was probably the best fighter. "I accept," she said, opening her eyes. "I will be our champion." Dexver's expression changed to one of delighted surprise. "You, the little female? This is even better than I hoped. My people will enjoy watching this." He leaned forward. "Prepare yourself, small creature. Tomorrow you face Zexgoth the Bone Crusher, and he has never lost a fight." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Lisa sat back, down in her command chair, her mind already working on a plan. She might be small compared to these aliens, but she was human. And humans had survived on a dangerous planet for millions of years by being smart, not strong. She was about to show these aliens what that really meant. The Zephyrian flagship Void Render was a monster of a ship. As the Discovery shuttle approached the massive vessel, Lisa could see weapon ports that were larger than her entire ship. The alien flagship stretched for miles in every direction, its dark hull covered with spines and sharp edges that made it look like some kind of spaceborne predator. Jake piloted the shuttle with steady hands, but Lisa could see sweat on his forehead. "I still think this is a bad idea, Commander," Carol said from the seat behind Lisa. "These aliens are twice our size and 3 times our strength. Their bone structure alone could withstand impacts that would kill us instantly." Lisa checked her equipment one more time. She wore a simple combat suit that provided basic protection but still allowed full movement. The aliens had insisted on no weapons, which was fine with her. She had never needed weapons to win a fight before. "Trust me," Lisa said quietly. "I know what I'm doing." Ryan was monitoring alien communications from his portable unit. "Commander, they're calling this fight throughout their empire. Ships are arriving from other systems just to watch. They think..." He paused. "They think it's going to be funny." The shuttle docked with the Void Render, and Lisa stepped out into an alien world. The corridors were huge, designed for beings much larger than humans. The walls were covered with what looked like trophies, skulls, and weapons from defeated enemies. The air smelled of metal and something else. something that made Lisa's skin crawl. 4 Zephyrian guards escorted them through the ship. Each guard stood over 8 feet tall, their forearms moving with fluid grace despite their massive size. Their armor looked like it had been grown rather than built, and Lisa could see that it was actually part of their skin. These were not beings that evolution had designed for peace. The arena was enormous. Lisa estimated it could hold 50,000 spectators, and every seat was filled. The crowd was a mixture of different alien species, all of them much larger than humans. Some looked like Dexver with their 4 arms and armored skin. Others were completely different, crystalline beings that sparkled like living jewels, creatures that seemed to be made of gas and energy, insect-like aliens with too many legs and eyes that glowed in the dim light. All of them were staring at Lisa with expressions of amusement and contempt. She could hear their laughter echoing through the arena, a sound like breaking glass and grinding metal. To them, she was not a worthy opponent, but a source of entertainment. Like a small animal performing tricks, Dexver stood in a place of honor overlooking the arena. Around him sat the leaders of the other species in the Zephyrian Empire. Lisa could see them placing bets, their alien voices creating a constant buzz of conversation. She did not need to understand their languages to know what they were saying. They were betting on how quickly she would die. The arena floor was a circle of dark metal surrounded by energy barriers that hummed with power. The barriers would keep the fight contained and prevent either fighter from escaping. In the center of the arena, a massive figure waited. Zexgoth the Bone Crusher was everything the name suggested. He stood 9 feet tall and weighed at least 600 pounds of pure muscle and armor. His 4 arms were as thick as tree trunks, ending in claws that could cut through steel. His head was like a battering ram, covered in bone ridges that could smash through walls. Scars covered his body, telling the story of hundreds of victories. When Zexgoth saw Lisa enter the arena, he threw back his head and roared with laughter. The sound was so loud that Lisa felt it in her bones. The alien crowd went wild, cheering and laughing at the sight of the tiny human who dared to face their greatest champion. "This is your champion?" Zexgoth called out in broken English. "This small, soft creature? I have fought warriors from a dozen worlds. I have crushed the bones of beings twice your size. You are not even a warm-up." Lisa walked to the center of the arena, ignoring the noise from the crowd. She studied her opponent carefully, watching how he moved, looking for weaknesses. Zexgoth was massive and powerful, but he was also overconfident. That was good. Overconfidence made beings make mistakes. Dexver's voice boomed through the arena. "Citizens of the Zephyrian Empire, today we witness the trial of a new species that dares to enter our space. The humans claim they deserve respect, but look at their champion, so small, so weak, so pathetic." The crowd roared with approval. Lisa could see aliens throughout the stands making gestures that she was sure were insults in their various languages. Some were taking pictures with strange devices, probably wanting to record her defeat to show their friends later. "The rules are simple," Dexver continued. "No weapons, no armor, no mercy. The fight ends when one fighter cannot continue. Zexgoth has never lost a fight. He has crushed the champions of 17 different species. Today, he adds humans to his collection." Zexgoth raised his 4 arms above his head, flexing muscles that looked like steel cables. The crowd cheered even louder. He pointed one clawed finger at Lisa and made a gesture that was clearly threatening in any language. "When I am done with you, little creature," Zexgoth said, "your bones will decorate my trophy room. Your people will serve as slaves, cleaning our ships and preparing our food." "This is what happens to weak species in Zephyrian space." Lisa said nothing. She was watching, learning, preparing. Zexgoth moved like a creature used to winning through pure strength. His stance was aggressive but unbalanced. He relied on his size and power to intimidate opponents into making mistakes. Against other large, strong aliens, this probably worked well. Against a human who had spent years studying how to defeat larger opponents, it was a weakness waiting to be exploited. The other alien species leaders were clearly enjoying the show. The crystalline beings sparkled with what Lisa assumed was laughter. The gas creatures swirled in patterns that suggested excitement. The insect-like aliens clicked and buzzed in apparent approval. All of them had been conquered by the Zephyrians through superior strength, and they seemed to enjoy watching another species about to suffer the same fate. Jake, Carol, and Ryan sat in a special viewing area reserved for the human delegation. Lisa could see the worry on their faces. They knew the odds as well as anyone. Humans were smaller, weaker, and less armored than any species in the Zephyrian Empire. By all logical measures, this fight should be over in seconds, but Lisa had not become the commander of humanity's first interstellar mission by accepting what others thought was logical. She had earned her position through years of training, study, and preparation for situations exactly like this one. Every human military academy taught courses on asymmetric warfare, how smaller, weaker forces could defeat larger, stronger ones through intelligence, tactics, and the element of surprise. "Begin!" Vexver shouted. Zexgoth charged forward immediately. All four arms spread wide to grab Lisa in what he clearly intended to be a crushing embrace. This was probably his standard opening move, use his size and speed to overwhelm opponents before they could react. Against most opponents it probably worked perfectly, but Lisa was not most opponents. She was human, and humans had spent millions of years learning how to survive against creatures much larger and stronger than themselves. Her ancestors had faced saber-toothed cats, cave bears, and woolly mammoths with nothing but their intelligence and determination. Those same instincts flowed through her blood now. Instead of trying to meet Zexgoth's charge head-on, Lisa dropped low and rolled to the side at the last possible second. Zexgoth's massive form thundered past her, unable to change direction quickly enough to follow her movement. His claws scraped against the metal floor of the arena, leaving deep gouges in the surface. The alien crowd's cheering faltered slightly. This was not going according to their expectations. Zexgoth was supposed to grab the human immediately and crush her bones like twigs. Instead, the small creature had avoided his attack completely. Zexgoth spun around, his yellow eyes now showing more anger than amusement. "Stand still, little creature. Let me end this quickly." Lisa smiled for the first time since entering the arena. The real fight was about to begin, and she was exactly where she wanted to be. The silence in the arena was strange after all the noise. Zexgoth stood in the center of the fighting circle, his massive chest heaving with anger and confusion. His first attack had failed completely, and the alien crowd was no longer laughing. They were watching with growing interest as the small human circled their champion like a predator. Stalking prey, Lisa moved in a way that confused the aliens. Her steps were light and quick, but also purposeful. She was not running away from Zexgoth, she was studying him. Every movement he made told her something new about how he fought, how he thought, how he would react in different situations. This was how humans had always survived against larger predators. They watched, they learned, and then they struck when the moment was right. Zexgoth charged again, this time trying to corner Lisa against the energy barrier that surrounded the arena. His strategy was simple, use his longer reach and superior strength to trap her where she could not escape. It was the kind of direct, overwhelming approach that had probably worked against every opponent he had ever faced, but Lisa was not like his previous opponents. As Zexgoth closed in, she suddenly changed direction and darted between his legs. The massive alien was moving too fast to stop, and he crashed into the energy barrier with a sound like thunder. The barrier held, but the impact sent shockwaves through the arena that made the spectators gasp in surprise. The crystalline beings in the audience stopped sparkling. The gas creatures became still and focused. Even the insect-like aliens quieted their clicking and buzzing. This was not going the way anyone had expected. Vexver leaned forward in his viewing box, his yellow eyes fixed on the arena floor. "What is she doing?" he muttered to himself. "She should be running in terror, not ... whatever this is." Zexgoth pulled himself away from the barrier, shaking his head to clear it. When he turned around, there was real anger in his eyes for the first time. "Enough games, little creature. Fight me properly." He swung all four arms at once, trying to hit Lisa from multiple angles simultaneously. It was a devastating attack. That would have crushed any normal opponent instantly. But Lisa had been training for situations like this since she was 5 years old. Her father had been a Marine Corps hand-to-hand combat instructor, and he had taught her that the bigger they are, the harder they fall. If you know where to push. Lisa ducked under two of Zexgoth's arms, deflected a third with a quick strike to his wrist, and used the momentum from the fourth to spin herself out of range of all his attacks. Zexgoth's own strength worked against him as his missed punches threw him off balance. For the first time in the fight, Lisa went on the offensive. She struck quickly at pressure points on Zexgoth's lower arms, targeting nerve clusters that existed in most humanoid species. The alien's arms went partially numb, and he stumbled backward in surprise. The crowd was no longer cheering. They were watching in stunned silence as their unbeatable champion was being systematically dismantled by a creature one-third his size. This was not how fights were supposed to go in the Zephyrian Empire. The strong dominated the weak through superior force. That was the natural order of things, but Lisa was showing them a different way. She was demonstrating something that the Zephyrians and their subject species had never encountered before: the human ability to win through intelligence, adaptability, and technique rather than raw power. Jake gripped the arms of his chair in the viewing area. "I can't believe what I'm seeing," he whispered to Carol. "She's actually winning." Carol was watching with the eye of an engineer, analyzing the fight like a complex machine. "Look at how she moves," she said quietly. "Every action has a purpose. She's not just fighting him, she's solving him like a puzzle." Ryan was monitoring alien communications, and what he heard made his blood run cold. "The other species leaders are asking questions," he reported. "They want to know how a weak species could possibly compete with their champion. Some of them are starting to sound worried." In the arena, Zexgoth was learning that his usual tactics were useless against this strange opponent. Every time he tried to use his superior strength, the human found a way to turn it against him. She was like water flowing around a rock, impossible to grasp, but wearing him down with every interaction. Lisa struck again, this time at a nerve cluster in Zexgoth's neck. The massive alien's left side went partially paralyzed, and he roared in frustration and pain. He had never experienced anything like this. In all his previous fights, victory had come through overwhelming force applied quickly and brutally. This human was teaching him that there were other ways to fight, ways he had never imagined. The alien crowd began to murmur among themselves. Some of the subject species were looking at each other with expressions that Thexford did not like. They were beginning to wonder if perhaps strength was not the only path to victory. If this tiny human could defeat their greatest champion, what did that say about the natural order that the Zephyrian Empire was built upon? Zexgoth tried a different approach. Instead of charging directly at Lisa, he began to move more carefully, trying to use his intelligence instead of just his strength. But this was exactly what Lisa had been waiting for. When opponents started thinking instead of just reacting, they became predictable in different ways. She began to demonstrate techniques that no alien in the arena had ever seen before. Martial arts developed over thousands of years of human warfare, refined through countless conflicts and adapted for fighting opponents of all sizes and strengths. She showed them joint locks that could immobilize beings much larger than herself, throws that used an opponent's momentum against them, and strikes that could disable without causing permanent damage. But more than the techniques themselves, Lisa was demonstrating something far more profound. She was showing the assembled aliens that intelligence and adaptability could triumph over raw power. That a small, seemingly weak species could not only survive but thrive by thinking rather than just fighting. Zexgoth was breathing heavily. Now, his massive frame struggling with exhaustion and the accumulated damage from Lisa's precise attacks. He had fought hundreds of battles, but never one like this. Never against an opponent who seemed to know his moves before he made them, who turned his own strength into weakness, who fought with a kind of intelligence he had never encountered. "This is impossible," he gasped, speaking more to himself than to Lisa. "You are small, you are weak. How are you doing this?" Lisa paused in her circling and looked directly into his eyes. Because being small doesn't mean being weak, she said clearly, her voice carrying throughout the arena. My people learned long ago that the biggest predator doesn't always win. Sometimes the smartest one does. The words echoed through the arena, translated by universal communicators into dozens of languages. The subject species leaders looked at each other with new understanding. The crystalline beings began to sparkle in patterns that suggested deep thought. The gas creatures swirled with what appeared to be excitement. Even the insect-like aliens were clicking in rhythms that seemed almost like conversation. Vexver felt something he had not experienced in decades: uncertainty. Everything he thought he knew about strength and weakness was being challenged by this small human who refused to accept defeat. For the first time in his life, he began to wonder if the Zephyrian Empire's understanding of power might be incomplete. Zexgoth gathered himself for one final assault. He would use every technique he knew, every dirty trick he had learned in a lifetime of combat. If raw strength would not work, he would try cunning. If direct attacks failed, he would use deception, but as he prepared his ultimate attack, he made the mistake of looking into Lisa's eyes. What he saw there was not fear or desperation, but calm confidence. She was not fighting for her life. She was demonstrating a lesson. And the lesson was almost over. The real revelation was not that Lisa could defeat him. The real revelation was that she had been holding back the entire time, showing the aliens just enough to make her point without completely humiliating their champion. But now, as Zexgoth prepared his final desperate assault, Lisa's expression changed. The demonstration was over. It was time to end this. Zexgoth raised all four arms above his head, muscles bulging with the effort of channeling every ounce of strength he possessed into one final attack. The Void Crush was his ultimate technique, a devastating move that had never failed him in over 300 battles. He would bring all four arms down simultaneously, creating an inescapable cage of crushing force that would end this humiliating fight once and for all. The alien crowd held its breath. Even those who had begun to doubt their champion's invincibility hoped that this legendary technique would restore the natural order. The Void Crush was more than just an attack. It was a symbol of Zephyrian dominance, proof that superior strength would always triumph over inferior weakness. Lisa watched Zexgoth prepare his final assault with the calm attention of a scientist observing an experiment. She had been studying his movement patterns throughout the entire fight, cataloging every twitch of muscle, every shift of weight, every telegraph of intent. Now she could see exactly what he was planning, and she knew precisely how to counter it. Dexver leaned forward in his viewing box, his clawed hands gripping the railing so tightly that the metal bent under the pressure. This had to work. The Void Crush had defeated champions from 17 different species. It had crushed the bones of warriors who were themselves considered unstoppable. Surely it would be enough to end this nightmare, but as Zexgoth committed to his attack, bringing all four arms down in a coordinated strike designed to pulverize anything caught within its range. Lisa moved with a speed and precision that shocked everyone watching. She did not try to dodge the attack or block it or absorb its impact. Instead, she did something that no alien in the arena had ever seen before. She stepped directly into the attack. The movement was so unexpected, so contrary to every instinct of self-preservation, that for a moment Zexgoth hesitated. In that instant of confusion, Lisa struck 3 specific points on his body simultaneously. Her left hand hit a nerve cluster just below his right shoulder. Her right hand struck a pressure point on his lower back. Her knee connected with a spot on his left leg that disrupted the flow of nervous signals to his extremities. The effect was instantaneous and devastating. Zexgoth's nervous system overloaded, his massive muscles seized up, and he toppled like a falling tree. His 4 arms, which had been descending with enough force to crush steel, suddenly went limp and useless. The greatest champion in Zephyrian history crashed to the arena floor completely paralyzed, unable to move even a single finger. The silence that followed was absolute. 50,000 aliens stared in disbelief at their fallen champion, trying to process what they had just witnessed. The unbeatable Zexgoth lay helpless on the arena floor while the tiny human stood over him. Not even breathing heavily, Lisa looked down at her defeated opponent with something that shocked the aliens. Even more than her victory, compassion. "The paralysis is temporary," she said clearly, her voice carrying throughout the arena. "You will recover completely in about 10 minutes. No permanent damage." The concept of mercy was so foreign to most of the aliens present that they struggled to understand what they were seeing. In Zephyrian combat, fights ended with death or permanent disability. The idea that a victor might deliberately choose not to cause lasting harm to a defeated opponent was almost incomprehensible. Vexver stood slowly from his seat, his mind reeling. Everything he thought he knew about combat, about strength, about the natural order of the universe had just been shattered by a creature he could have stepped on without noticing. The implications were staggering. Jake pumped his fist in the air, unable to contain his excitement. "She did it!" She actually did it. Carol was staring at Lisa with a mixture of admiration and amazement while Ryan was frantically monitoring. Alien communications as news of the impossible victory spread throughout the Empire, but the most significant reactions came from the representatives of the subject species. The crystalline beings were sparkling in rapid, excited patterns. The gas creatures were swirling with what was clearly intense discussion. The insect-like aliens were clicking and buzzing in rhythms that suggested they were having heated arguments among themselves. For the first time in centuries, the conquered species were seeing an alternative to the might makes right philosophy that had kept them subjugated. A small, apparently weak species had just defeated the symbol of Zephyrian dominance through intelligence, technique, and careful planning. If humans could do this, what might be possible for other supposedly inferior species? Lisa walked to the edge of the arena and looked up at Dexver. "The fight is over," she said simply. "By your own laws, humanity has proven its worth. We claim the right to travel freely through your space." Vexver nodded slowly, still struggling to process what he had witnessed. "You have won," he said, the words seeming to stick in his throat, "but I do not understand. How did you defeat Zexgoth? He is 3 times your size, 5 times your strength. His armor can deflect energy weapons. His bones are harder than steel." Lisa smiled, and for the first time, it was not the smile of someone trying to appear confident. It was the smile of someone who was about to share knowledge. "My people evolved on a dangerous world," she said. "We were never the biggest or the strongest or the fastest. We survived by being smart." She gestured toward the still paralyzed Zexgoth. "Your champion is incredibly strong, but strength has weaknesses. The bigger and more powerful a being becomes, the more complex their nervous system has to be to control all that mass and muscle. More complexity means more points of failure, more ways for someone who understands anatomy and pressure points to shut down the entire system." The aliens listening began to understand that they were receiving a lesson in a completely different approach to conflict. Lisa continued, her voice carrying clearly throughout the arena. "Humans spent thousands of years fighting creatures much larger than ourselves. We learned to hunt mammoths and saber-toothed cats not by being stronger than them, but by being smarter. We developed martial arts, strategy, and tactics specifically designed to defeat superior physical force through superior mental planning." She looked around the arena, making eye contact with representatives from different species. "We discovered that intelligence is the ultimate force multiplier. A small, weak being who thinks clearly and plans carefully can defeat enemies that seem impossible to overcome." Zexgoth was beginning to regain some movement in his extremities. Lisa helped him sit up, an action that caused another wave of shocked murmurs throughout the crowd. In Zephyrian culture, showing assistance to a defeated enemy was unprecedented. "Thank you," Zexgoth said quietly, speaking to Lisa in a voice filled with confusion and something that might have been respect. "I have never been defeated before. I do not understand what happened, but—" "You fought with honor," Lisa nodded. "You fought well, too. Your technique is excellent for fighting other large, strong opponents. You just never encountered someone who had trained specifically to defeat beings like you. As Lisa spoke, the implications of her words began to sink in throughout the arena. She was not claiming to be unusually skilled or specially gifted. She was saying that humans had developed these abilities as a species, as a survival mechanism, which meant that other humans might possess similar capabilities. Vexver felt a chill run down his spine as he realized what this meant. If this small female was just an ordinary human, what would happen when the Zephyrian Empire encountered human warriors? Human soldiers who had trained specifically for combat rather than exploration? The thought was terrifying, but also strangely exciting. For the first time in his long military career, Vexver was facing opponents who might actually challenge the Empire's dominance through means other than brute force. The implications for the future were enormous. As medical teams rushed onto the arena floor to check on Zexgoth, Lisa walked toward the exit where her crew waited. The fight was over, but she had a feeling that the real challenges were just beginning. She had proven that humans deserved respect, but now she had to figure out what to do with it. The medical bay of the Void Render was unlike anything Lisa had ever seen. Alien doctors with multiple arms worked over Zexgoth with instruments that hummed and glowed with strange energies. The massive champion was sitting up now, his paralysis completely gone, but his pride was still badly wounded. He kept staring at his hands as if he could not believe they had failed him. Vexver stood nearby, watching the medical procedures but clearly thinking about much larger issues. The victory of a single human over their greatest champion had implications that reached far beyond one arena fight. Word was already spreading throughout the Zephyrian Empire, carried by faster-than-light communications to every world under their control. "Commander Martinez," Vexver said formally, "by the ancient laws of our empire, I must acknowledge your victory. Humanity has proven its worth in combat and earned the right to travel freely through our space." He paused, his yellow eyes studying Lisa intently. "But I have questions that go far beyond our laws," Lisa nodded. She had expected this. The fight had been about more than just winning free passage for human ships. It had been a demonstration of human capabilities, and now the aliens wanted to understand exactly what they were dealing with. "Ask your questions," Lisa said. "I will answer honestly." Vexver gestured toward a private meeting room adjacent to the medical bay. As they walked, Lisa noticed that the corridors of the ship were filling with aliens. Word of the fight had spread quickly, and everyone wanted to see the small human who had defeated their champion. The looks she received were no longer dismissive or amused. Now there was curiosity, respect, and in some cases, obvious concern. The meeting room was designed for beings much larger than humans, but someone had thoughtfully provided a smaller chair for Lisa. Around the table sat representatives from all 6 species that made up the Zephyrian Empire. The crystalline beings sparkled with what Lisa was beginning to recognize as intense interest. The gas creatures had formed themselves into more solid shapes, suggesting they were taking this meeting very seriously. "Tell me about your people," Vexver said without preamble. "Are you a typical human, or are you somehow special?" Lisa considered her answer carefully. The truth was important here, but so was diplomacy. "I am a trained military officer and explorer, but my fighting skills are not unusual among humans. Most of our people learn some form of combat training during their education. We developed these abilities because our planet is dangerous, and we needed to survive against creatures much larger and stronger than ourselves." One of the crystalline beings spoke, its voice like the sound of wind chimes. "Your techniques, where did they come from?" "We have conquered dozens of species, and none fought the way you fought. Humans have been developing martial arts for thousands of years," Lisa explained. "We studied anatomy, pressure points, leverage, and momentum. We learned that technique and intelligence could overcome raw strength. Every human child learns basic self-defense, and our military personnel train extensively in advanced combat methods." The implications of this statement hit the aliens like a physical blow. If every human knew how to fight the way Lisa fought, then humanity was not just another small species to be conquered or ignored. They were a potential threat to the entire established order. Dexter leaned forward. How many humans are there? About 12 billion on our homeworld, Lisa replied. We also have colonies on 6 other planets in our system. The silence that followed was deafening. 12 billion beings who could potentially fight the way Lisa fought. The number was staggering to aliens who were used to conquering species. With populations in the millions. One of the insect-like aliens clicked rapidly, then spoke through a translation device. This changes everything. If humans can defeat our champions through technique rather than strength, what does that mean for the rest of us? For the entire empire? Lisa saw the opportunity she had been hoping for. It means that strength is not the only form of power. Intelligence, cooperation, and technology can be just as effective, maybe more effective. She looked around the table at the representatives of the subject species. Your people were conquered because the Zephyrians were stronger, but what if there were other ways to measure worth? What if intelligence and innovation were valued as much as physical power? The crystalline being sparkled more brightly. You are suggesting an alternative to the current system. I am suggesting that the current system might not be the only way, Lisa corrected gently. Humans believe that diversity makes us stronger. Different species with different abilities working together can accomplish more than any single species working alone. Dexter was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with concepts that challenged everything he had been taught. Finally, he spoke. What do you propose? An alliance, Lisa said simply. Not conquest, not subjugation, but partnership. Humans can share our knowledge of tactics, strategy, and problem solving. In return, your species can share your technology, your strength, and your knowledge of this part of the galaxy. The room erupted in discussion as the various species representatives began talking among themselves. The crystalline beings sparkled in rapid patterns. The gas creatures swirled with excitement, and the insect-like aliens clicked so fast that their translation devices could barely keep up, but it was Zexgoth who provided the most surprising voice. The massive champion had entered the meeting room quietly, moving carefully but under his own power. I want to learn, he said simply. I want to understand how she defeated me. If there are techniques that can overcome strength, then I need to know them. Lisa smiled. I would be happy to teach you. But understand that it is not just about fighting techniques. It is about thinking differently, approaching problems from new angles, using your mind as much as your body. Dexter stood up slowly. This will require approval from the High Council of the Empire. What you are proposing is revolutionary. It challenges the fundamental principles our society is built upon. Sometimes revolutions are necessary, Lisa said. My people went through many changes before we learned to work together effectively. It was not always easy, but it made us stronger. Over the next several hours, Lisa found herself in meeting after meeting with different alien groups. The subject species were particularly interested in learning human techniques for asymmetric warfare and problem-solving. They had been suppressed for so long that the idea of challenging their oppressors through intelligence rather than impossible physical resistance was revolutionary. Jake, Carol, and Ryan joined the discussions, sharing their own expertise in piloting, engineering, and communications. The aliens were amazed to discover that humans specialized in different areas but worked together as teams, each contributing their unique skills to solve complex problems. But perhaps the most significant moment came when a young Zephyrian officer approached Lisa privately. Commander, he said quietly, there are many of us who have wondered if there might be better ways to maintain order than through force alone. Your demonstration has given us much to think about. Lisa realized that the victory in the arena had accomplished something far more important than just winning free passage for human ships. It had planted seeds of doubt about the inevitability of might makes right, and those seeds were already beginning to grow. As the Discovery prepared to return to Earth with news of first contact, Dexter made a formal request. Commander Martinez, would you be willing to leave some of your people here as advisors? We have much to learn about your methods. Lisa agreed, but with conditions. The exchange must work both ways. We want to learn from you as well. And any humans who stay must be treated as equals, not as curiosities or prisoners. Vexver nodded. Agreed, this alliance you propose. It intrigues me. Perhaps it is time for the Zephyrian Empire to consider new approaches to leadership. As the shuttle carried Lisa and her crew back to the Discovery, she reflected on what they had accomplished. They had come to this system as explorers hoping to make peaceful contact with alien life. Instead, they had sparked what might become a fundamental transformation of galactic politics. Commander, Ryan said as they approached their ship, I am monitoring communications throughout the Empire. Word of the fight is spreading faster than we expected. Some of the subject species are already requesting meetings with human representatives. Lisa nodded. Send a message to Earth. Tell them we are going to need diplomats, teachers, and yes, probably soldiers as well. But make sure they understand, we are not here to conquer. We are here to show them that there is a better way. Jake grinned as he piloted the shuttle into the Discovery's docking bay. You know what the best part of all this is? We came out here thinking we were the newcomers, the ones who had to prove ourselves worthy. Instead, we might end up teaching the whole galaxy that being underestimated is the greatest tactical advantage of all. Lisa smiled as she watched the alien fleet maintaining a respectful distance from the Discovery. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the smallest voice can speak the loudest truth, and that intelligence and adaptability were forces more powerful than any weapon ever built.